I'm fully aware that I might just be nuts, but I'm kind of obsessed with the economy in the Command & Conquer Remastered collection. I did play the original Command & Conquer and Red Alert back in the day, but I came to those games way late in terms of how old I was and how old the games were when I played them. I didn't really stick with them for very long, so my memory of their gameplay is really foggy at best. The first Command & Conquer I really was interested in was Tiberian Dawn, and the first one I remember clearly was Red Alert 2, even though then I never really played it in a competitive way. In terms of the newer Command & Conquer games, I'm a huge fan of how gameplay in general works in those games, and I have gotten back to them thanks to Cybert and Green Zero, but mostly that's in terms of, skirmishes against the AI and watching videos of competitive games and not really playing myself. All of that to say, when the Command & Conquer Remastered Collection actually came out, I was excited more on principle than anything. The return of the beloved Command & Conquer franchise was exciting, even if I didn't really expect too much of these games in terms of the actual gameplay. I noodled around, did some campaign, tried some multiplayer, watched a couple of VODs, and I thought, I'm probably done. I've seen what I need to see, and I thought that I might end up moving on. But then I started thinking about how the game's economy actually worked, and I think it was the VODs that kind of got me interested more than anything, watching some of those matches at Cybertcast. They kept coming down to the bitter end, to the wire, to just crazy tactics where you have a handful of units and you sell off almost all of your buildings. It was really, really fascinating to me. It's kind of antithetical to how a lot of RTS tend to play. The point of a lot of RTS games is to seriously damage your opponent's infrastructure and then they give up. And a lot of the time, Command & Conquer doesn't really work that way. Looking at how the matches play out, at least the ones where the players are more evenly balanced, it started to feel to me like the game's economy was responsible for how things progressed more than anything. There's, a relatively low time to kill for units, and infantry in particular. They can be mowed down by vehicles like flame tanks or even other flame troopers and grenadiers. APCs can crush them, tank balls can crush them, but even so, I've seen a group of unwatched minigunners come and kill a base. It's surprising how often a player can make a handful of infantry really go the distance. Structures are costly, and there's little purpose to building multiples of most of them. Power plants and refineries, I guess, being the biggest exceptions. Because of that, bases tend to be pretty small in RTS terms, with as few buildings as the player can get away with producing. Which, again, I think is a really fascinating way of approaching game design. Similarly, refineries and harvesters are costly and in very limited supply, keeping income constrained as players struggle to scrape together enough funds to purchase more buildings, while still being able to afford enough units to pressure their opponent or defend against incoming forces. Most interesting to me, each and every structure is an opportunity to harass the opponent in different ways. Killing the enemy's construction yard will, of course, stop the production of new buildings, but fairly often you actually see players selling off their own con yard for resources and for troops to support a combat push. Killing a refinery can slow down a player's income, but maybe a harvester is a better target, since a harvester can always just go to a different refinery, but once the harvester itself is gone, the actual total income potential for the player is decreased. But even just hurting a building, hurting a factory or a con yard, that can be enough to harass the player, because they have to heal it or it'll die again in the next attack. What I love the most, I think, about the economy is what happens as the game progresses. In the later Command & Conquer games, you just move your MCV somewhere else or get a Prospector or some other build radius expanding unit, and your economy goes unmitigated. But in Tiberian Dawn, what you see a lot of the time is the harvesters have to go really far across the map to get economy, so your economy is actually slowing down later in the game, which you, again, don't hardly see in RTS games, and I really like the effects that it tends to have in Command & Conquer Remastered. Additionally, you get these crazy bases that players build in an extended line across the map to get closer to Tiberium. Or, like I said earlier, to long-distance mine with the harvesters across large portions of the map, which, again, you see pretty often. So in effect, anyway, the longer a Command & Conquer match goes on, the less money you're bringing in. The first couple of engagements in Command & Conquer tend to be the biggest ones, with lots of units. But as the match goes on, players typically end up having to scrape together smaller and smaller armies to try to make something happen. Now, of course, this isn't always the case, due to the high-impact damage of everything in the game. One player can get caught with their pants down and lose a couple of key structures early to an APC rush or a bike rush, or even grenadiers or non-buggies or something, or to a huge mass of medium tanks or a big ball of grenadiers. You get it. The sort of equilibrium that takes players into the late game isn't guaranteed. There are more 2- and 3-minute matches on the Command & Conquer ladder than there are 15- and 20-minute matches, for what that's worth. For all its bad of pathfinding and questionable balance, I found something enchanting about the interactions and the economics and just everything that Command & Conquer Remastered has to offer. I keep coming back to it almost in spite of myself, and I find it, frankly, inspiring. This article and the video that you're seeing is kind of atypical for me. I'm trying something new, a little more stream of consciousness, a little more off the cuff, a little less formal and worried about going into great detail. I hope that's interesting. I hope that there's something of value that comes out of it. Either way, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. And if I do this again, I hope that you will watch that video as well. This has been Wayward, and this has been my thoughts on the economy of Command & Conquer Remastered. This match has actually been pretty interesting. I might try to come back and cast this, maybe, Parappa 56 versus Crexus. Anyway, this has been Wayward. Thank you for your time.